All right, today approximately 7 a.m. police were called to 100 block of North Queen Street in City for a public urination, man exposing himself call. Two officers responded. One officer engaged the subject in conversation, was able to obtain his identification. While the officer was checking the subject's identification, the subject reached into his pocket, pulled out a folding knife, and charged at the officer. One officer was able to discharge his weapon. The male fled south on Queen Street. Two officers in pursuit. At one point, one officer was able to fire his taser. The taser struck the male, but it had absolutely no effect on him. The male continued to run south on Queen Street. A third officer at this point joined into the pursuit. They were able to catch up to him in the middle of the unit block of North Queen. At that point, he was given numerous opportunities and commands to drop his weapon. He chose not to. He eventually charged at the officers. One officer discharged his weapon. The subject was struck. He was transported to Lancaster General Hospital, where he eventually died from his wound. Right now, we're interviewing witnesses. We have video at this point of the initial contact in the 100 block of North Queen that shows the subject actually lunging at the officer. And we will, all that will be turned over to the district attorney's office, and the district attorney will be in charge of investigating the shooting. So at this time, we won't release that video until that investigation is completed. All three officers are fine. They were not injured, and we don't have it. We're not releasing the name of the subject right now. We've not been able to make any contact with next of kin. I'll take any questions at this point.
I think you said that after the initial confrontation, did you get rid of his folding knife at that point, or he took off with it?
No, he continued. He did not disregard the folding knife. Even after he was shot, he still had it.
Okay.
Was he hit by when the first officer at Lancaster Square discharged his weapon? Was this man hit at that point?
Doesn't appear that he was. It appears that at the second location is where he was actually struck by a bullet.
One bullet?
Yes.
Was he under the influence?
That I'm unaware of. While he was being checked, his identification was being checked, he was muttering, he was kind of rambling, not sure what he was saying. He was kind of just not really sure what he was saying, but it was just, they could not understand what he was saying before he actually charged it at them.
It sounds like when he ran from Lancaster Square down to the first block, he was in and out of traffic, he was in the street, or was
Well, that's correct. When he was running south on Queen Street, he ran out into the street. He crossed it at one point, crossed back. He was in front of the Rite Aid that would be on the southwest corner there, southeast corner rather. After that, he ran back across the street. He ended up on the even side of the street, the west side of that unit block in North Queen.
Did the taser fail?
He was struck by the taser, but it didn't have any effect.
Did the taser fail? Does that mean that it just didn't have an effect, or did it fail?
Well, when you say failed can mean did they miss him or whatever. The taser, the barb did strike him. Apparently, he was able to pull that out while he was running, so it didn't have any effect on him. It was engaged properly, but it had no effect on him apparently.
How many times was he struck by a bullet?
Once.
Where?
In the torso.
How long did he live?
Well, he was rushed to the hospital not long after 7 a.m. and we were notified from LGH approximately 10 a.m.
So he was in surgery and they could not stop the bleeding?
Well, that I can't speak on the medical issue there. He was transferred to the hospital and they worked on him, and I'm not sure exactly what they performed. But
how many shots were fired?
At this point, one at the initial contact scene and two at the ending on unit block in North Queen, 3 altogether.
3 altogether, and 1 hit the suspect.
Yes.
Is the suspect known to the police? Is he from this area? Do we know anything?
Well, apparently he's homeless. He's been seen in the area before by several officers.
For how long?
Probably at least in the last several weeks.
The investigation will include sort of how the officers responded to him in the park, and then.
Well, in any police shooting, there's an investigation. The district attorney's office is responsible for clearing that. Our end of it is, of course, the initial collecting witnesses, evidence, and so forth. And then also in any police-involved shooting, there's always training and reviewing and making sure that procedures are followed, and that's pretty standard on any police shooting.
Disappointing, though, that a public urination results in a death, I would assume.
Well, certainly. I mean, these officers did not come to work this morning thinking they were going to have to shoot a subject that's, apparently deranged and charging him with a knife. This subject was literally the aggressor right from the beginning. And even after that, he had numerous opportunities to drop his weapon and chose not to. And if you can appreciate North Queen Street at that time in the morning, folks are just getting to work. That's a very populated area, businesses up and down the street. So fortunately, there were no other civilians that were injured by this male running through the street. And apparently he's about 6'3", 220, 230 pounds. So if he was able to carry out his intentions, he could have possibly fatally injured the 3 officers and any civilian that may have been there.
Was he a suspect in other crimes?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
He had a weapon. Could you describe it?
It's a folding knife, approximately 9 inches in length, with about a 5-inch blade.
Did he have any other weapons on his person?
None that we're aware of that were found. The knife was recovered at the scene.
So the only weapon he had was a knife?
Yes.
And what happened when he was shot? Was he in the process of attacking someone?
He charged towards the 3 officers with the knife, and he was shot, and he collapsed in the street, and he was transported to Lancaster General Hospital immediately.
How close did he get to the officers before they fired?
He was within feet.
I'm sorry, just to be clear, that would have been the second time he charged the officers with a knife.
That's what you're asking about, correct?
Okay.
Okay.
Can we get identifications of the officers?
No, not at this time.
Okay. And for the district attorney, what is the process of investigating this incident?
Well, our role is to look at everything when it's collected, and it's premature at this point in time. I mean, I'm comfortable telling you that all preliminary indications are that this was entirely justified. That is not a final conclusion. I've seen the initial video myself. There's absolutely no question that the individual shot was the aggressor, the only aggressor, and was directly charging the one officer. That I can tell you for sure. There may be another video. We'll take a look at that, but we've got to do a comprehensive investigation and look at everything, at all aspects of this. It's pretty rare that we have this much information from witnesses and this much video evidence of a case like this, but still I have to be patient with it and take measured steps with it, and we'll make a determination. I would anticipate that'll be done pretty quickly in this particular case.
Okay. And you're saying that it was entirely justified as a preliminary perspective?
From what I've seen so far, but that's not my final conclusion.
What did you say that made you feel, well, the officer had reason to shoot?
Well, there's no question from looking at the video that he is charging the police officer with a knife. And there's no question that the officers, at least what I could see, are doing nothing but standing there. In fact, there's some distance between the officers and this individual before he decides to take his knife out and charge. And I think the easiest way to say it is a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I can describe to you that he's aggressive and he's charging, but when you see it, there's just no question about it. And at the conclusion of this, when I come to my conclusion, we'll consider releasing that to the public, the videos. But I want to do it, a step at a time and take a look at everything. I think the broader sense of this case is just a reminder of the challenges our police officers face every single day. You raised the question about it's a relatively insignificant call, and the men and women that put on the uniform to protect all of us at any moment could face death, and it's clearly at the beginning of this incident, that's what happened. This individual, for whatever reason, made choices, and these officers, at least from what I could tell at this point in time, appropriately responded, and they clearly took measured steps, and they're aware, as you bring out, there's people around, and there could have been, at least initially, in my mind, what I can say, probably more shots fired before they were. But again, I'll take it, I'll come back with a complete report at the end, and it just, like I said, I think it's a good reminder, no matter what this particular case, just every single day, on every single one of these calls, what these men and women do for us.
Okay. Do the county detectives handle this, or what's the process for investigating?
Sometimes, some cases, the county detectives take over the investigation. In cases like this, we've got so much information already, there may not be a need for the county detectives to be involved, but I will look personally at all the reports and all the videos as they come in, and then I'll make the decision based on that.
This is just a quick setup question, if I'm picturing this correctly. So initially the first two officers come and approach the man. One officer takes his identification, and I'm assuming goes back to a vehicle to run the identification, or steps away from the scene?
It was a bicycle.
Okay.
So
he's still at the scene?
He's still there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the initial aggression with the knife was towards both officers?
No, towards one.
Okay. And is that the officer who then fired his weapon?
Yes.
Was it only one officer who fired their weapon, or
Yeah.
if there are three shots, did they all come from the same?
They're all from the same officer. At the initial scene, the second officer did not have a clear line to discharge his weapon. He was facing Queen Street, which is heavily traveled with traffic. And again, the next round of shots were not fired until they had him outside of a building there, like an alcove. Yeah, which while they were pursuing him, even though he was armed with a knife and still had it out, they really didn't have a clear shot, because that's a heavily traveled street with traffic and pedestrian.
And
so even the fact that he had already lunged at one officer and obviously expressed his intentions, they still showed an enormous amount of restraint while chasing him, until they got him to a location where he could again attack them, and then he was engaged by one officer.
Did he verbally engage the officers at all? Did he say, "I'm gonna hurt you"?
After he had his identification being checked, he was kind of rambling and muttering, which was just incomprehensible. It just didn't know what he was saying.
And during the pursuit, he didn't yell at them?
No, I mean, and I doubt they would able to know what he was saying, if he was saying anything, because they were constantly yelling for him to drop his weapon. And that's apparently the information we've gotten that collaborates with the officers themselves. All right. Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you.